they were either kicking it to the keeper, over the bar, missed the frame completely. I mean, they had some very, very poorly taken penalties at home to advance a 0-0 draw against an amateur side and just couldn't get it done. So,
So compare that with Orlando's U23s, who went to the 14th round of a shootout.
yeah,
I watched every single penalty kick of that shootout. It was awesome.
I
And
bet.
they made 12 out of 14 in Charleston, and that's the reserves of a an already like lower league team. So that's
Right.
like fifth or sixth league
Yeah,
making
they're a
all these penalties.
PDL team. They're the
Yeah.
U23s
Uh-huh.
for a USL Pro team.
Right.
And Charleston is a full USL Pro team and a pretty good one. You know,
Yeah. They're probably
they're
going to make the playoffs.
yeah. And that's shocking to me that it went down that way. I really wish I probably will go back and watch that, to be honest,
You should.
because
Orlando had their second goal was ridiculous. It was the Charleston goalie did something silly, and the Orlando guy just had this chip from like near midfield. I might be exaggerating this, but I don't think I am. From like midfield over to the keeper, and it was just an incredible goal. It was like, it was like the goal. It's a better goal than you most see in most MLS games this year. So
oh man.
yeah,
And, my biggest disappointment from last year's MLS Cup is that we were a single penalty shy of getting to see the keepers take them. I was so ready to see Jimmy and Ramondo, take those kicks, and I was really disappointed it didn't go that way. And so to get to see the entire field team go through, including the keepers, I think that's worth seeing. It's the entire replay is
on
on
YouTube
Charleston's website
somewhere.
on YouTube. Yeah. So that's I love that story. The only
Yeah.
part of that story I don't like is that now the Orlando City U23s get to fly to Portland, and Portland's going to have a real easy game. I mean, I don't have a lot of room to talk.
Well, unless they lose, I mean that'd be hilarious, right? Two out
I
of
mean,
three
that would be
years.
extra hilarious. That would be
Yeah.
extra hilarious. Nothing was funnier to me than the entire Cal FC debacle. So I certainly would have a good time. But honestly, like it puts a little fear in you, like the fact that that can happen after seeing how well PSA Elite played. Well, I mean, or how bad Los Dos played against them. Like,
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know,
there's like legitimate pressure on you guys now. Like, if you guys had gone to LA and lost to LA two in LA, I don't think anybody like that would have been disappointing, but it wouldn't have been an all-time awful loss.
I
Like
think outside
losing
of
to,
Seattle, it wouldn't have been a big deal. I think that there's a huge expectation that we could beat that team here, but you're right. That wouldn't go down as one of the greatest gaffes. It wouldn't go down as, a how could they. But I guess Cal FC didn't they?
yeah, because it's something I like to bring up whenever Aaron Flynn makes fun of me on Twitter. I just say the words Cal FC, and then he's like, ah,
Oh, it's awfully effective. Yeah. Um, so that was great. I totally psyched for the young kids. Good for them. Hey, if nothing else, somebody pointed out today the same for the PSA Elite team. Like, if you told them a year ago, hey, you're going to get to fly to Seattle and you're going to get to play against legends like Marcus Hahnemann. You know what I mean? Like, and I would have said Jimmy Traore. Unfortunately, it sounds like he might have a season-ending injury. But you're going to get to play against guys who have played in Champion League teams. Like that's got to be cool for those guys, no matter what the outcome is. To make it to the fourth round, to get to go play an MLS team, like that's really
Mhm.
exciting. So I guess
And
it's
that's
not.
what's so disappointing about the whole San Diego Flash situation, because there's a pretty well-known RMLSer out there, Keepa One, Philly Union fan, who's the goalkeeper down for at the Flash,
Right.
who, this is the opportunity he wanted. He wanted to go play an MLS team, and had they done what PSA Elite did and beat Los Dos, that's exactly what would have happened. But
Yeah, it'd be him coming up to play Seattle.
right,
Which, you know what, speaking of who plays who, I'm going to throw this out there. I actually meant to make a quick post on the subreddit just to see if anybody could give me a straight answer, because I've done a fair bit of research and I'm having a hard time. It, the the Wikipedia page for the 2014 Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup seems to be very quickly updated, and it has a set of brackets showing who the
Yeah, don't
winners.
follow those brackets. The only thing that's determined right now is the next round.
Okay, that's my question.
That's your question. That's what.
Because
Yeah.
those articles that have been coming out when they say, here are the updates, like here are the potential matchups. If this team wins, they go to Seattle. If this team wins, Seattle goes to them. That's done right now on a round-by-round basis, right? The brackets mean nothing?
Correct.
Okay, well, I'm glad you could clear that up, because my second point was going to be that the Cup.us has a completely separate bracket, and that makes more sense.
Yes.
Is that the way it's traditionally been done?
They had whole brackets for a few years. But
Most
they have.
recently?
I don't remember. They haven't done this for like since I've really been following the Cup, which was when I got into the Railhawks back in like the late aughts. So
They have had set brackets, or they have not?
they did not.
Okay. That's good. That's good to know. That's just on me for not paying attention to the structure, but I I was all excited looking at the potential matchups. Like, oh, hey, look, if we move on and RSL, who is probably the favorites against the Silverbacks, if they move on, that would be a great matchup. We're going to play them this weekend in the league, and then a couple of weeks out, we could potentially play them in an Open Cup round. But that means nothing now.
You'll probably play Portland. It's done geographically for a couple of rounds for the
Right,
most
right.
part.
I don't know what point that stops though. I guess they're calling the next round the fifth round, and then it becomes the quarterfinal. So maybe the fifth round is the final, like truly geographical, and then I don't
Yeah, that
know.
makes sense because once you get to 8, they're all around the country. It doesn't matter anymore.
Right, exactly.
Um, but I mean, and it's mostly geographical, not entirely, because Galaxy and the Chivas is coming out to Raleigh for the third year in a row, and we played Galaxy 2 years in a row, and now this time they're actually just playing Arizona. But that's mostly because there aren't enough lower leagues out west for MLS teams to play. So that's
Right,
why
right.
that
Because the
happens.
same thing happened to the Sounders last year, right? We flew 3,000 miles out to Tampa Bay and
Hmm.
lost there.
Right.
So yeah, that
Nainer, nainer.
that could definitely get better. I don't know how. We've expanded it to be the biggest field possible this year at 80 teams, but maybe the Western teams just aren't making it through. I'm not sure. It'd be great to see less teams having to do East Coast travel.
So you're a Seattle fan, obviously.
I am.
How many Open Cup games have you been to, and how awesome have they been?
Um, I don't know if I had to count. Boy, I have been to one final. I went to the final against Chicago in 2011, which to
Hmm.
this day is still my favorite Sounders game that I've attended.
Wow.
Yeah, it was absolutely electric. The stadium was just, buzzing, and there was a lot of tension because, that game was 1-0 for the Sounders through like the 85th minute, and there was just this feeling that it wasn't over, and Chicago could bring it back at any point, and the whole stadium was just kind of on edge, and Ozzy Alonso struck an incredible goal near the 90th minute to seal it, and I swear it's one of the loudest times I've even heard the stadium, and it wasn't 65,000, but people just
Right.
went nuts. It was really electric. I love that game, so it's pretty high on my list. But I've probably been to, I don't know, 5 or 6 Open Cup games at Starfire, and they are also always my favorite games of the season. I
Well,
think the Sounders, huh?
what's Starfire like?
The Sounders are really lucky. Starfire is incredible. So Starfire is actually the complex where the Sounders train. So there's
Uh-huh.
like I don't know 12 fields, and one of them is essentially a professional level field for lower league. That's where our reserve teams play their games. It is full turf, and it can hold. I want to say just under 4,000, like 3,900 or something like that.
Hmm.
So it's super, super intimate. It's a really tiny field by comparison to what the Sounders play on at CenturyLink. So we actually regularly change our tactics up because we're playing a lot of like reserve and second team guys, and we're playing on a much smaller pitch. So we regularly play very different there, in our decisions of which players to play for Open Cup games and what tactics to play. But it's just so intimate. I mean, it's crazy how close the fans are to the action. Like, it's nothing like that at CenturyLink, which is also partly, in fact, because it shares an NFL team. But yeah. Starfire, you are just, I mean, you're on top of the players. Like, when they're doing throw-ins on your side, like, you could probably tap them on the back of the head. It's right there. And so, when you have teams like Portland or RSL or someone come visit, you're seeing these MLS players that I'm used to seeing from a lot farther back. You can hear every word that's said on the field. It's kind of it's almost like a Field of Dreams feeling. Another Sounders fan said that because, like, there's a giant train that comes right behind the field, and if there's a Sounders game going, he'll honk the horn. If he doesn't have anywhere to be, they'll actually stop and watch the game for a little bit. Like, it's just a really unique feeling. There's a great beer garden where you're quarantined to be there if you want to drink during the game. So that section kind of gets rowdy, and like it's the most hardcore fans because there's only 4,000 seats. The Sounders have been so successful. Those tickets are going to sell out tomorrow morning in less than an hour. 4,000 seats.
And that's against PSA Elite.
Against PSA Elite, they are going to sell out in less than an hour. So the 4,000 people that fill those stands are the most hardcore. And it's an incredible experience. It's why we are 17-0 in competitive matches going back to 2005. I mean, it's a crazy, crazy record. And, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm super pumped.
So, that's sort of like that I feel like is a lot of the reason why people just love the U.S. Open Cup. They call it like the best. We had RP on here last week, called it the best kept secret in American sports and one of the best tournaments in American sports, and it totally is because you get to see all these cool little neat stadiums that you wouldn't ever see in general, and they're all pretty nice. Like Blackbaud Stadium, I mean, they didn't fill out to play the Orlando City U23s, but had they moved on, they get behind that team. Anytime a lower league team gets to play an MLS team at their home stadium, it's great. It almost always sells out. Like I've been to 4 games. I've been to both Chivas and both Galaxy games, where the Railhawks played in the Open Cup these last couple of years, and it's just been fantastic. That first game against the Galaxy was so amazing. They hadn't built the second level yet, so everybody was surrounded the field. They went down 1-0 in the first half pretty early, and then they came back and they won in the 88th minute, and it was great. And it was really, really fucking loud. And 8,000 people doesn't sound like a lot, but when they're all surrounding, when they're all right next to the pitch, like it sounds like they are at Starfire and like they are at WakeMed, because they build that pretty intimate too.
Yeah.
Because there's no reason not to. I mean,
right,
it's
exactly.
And that's how it is at Blackbaud. That's how it is at quite a few minor league stadiums, that they have their own place. Like I think that's how it is in Rochester too. It's so cool, especially when the lower league teams do well. And it's a great spectacle. It's going to be great. I'm really excited. I'm going to get to see Sporting Park for the first time. I'm going to travel down with dark clouds to see Minnesota play Kansas City.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that.
Even though my fans that traveled out there for the 2012 Open Cup that we lost there, they still have nothing but amazing things to say about that stadium and the quality and the sight lines and the atmosphere that the Cauldron brings. Like I've heard nothing but compliments about what an amazing place it is. It's definitely high on my list of places to go see. Unfortunately with the balanced schedule, I could have had the opportunity to go out there this year. I think I had the funds and the time off, but they came here for our opener instead.
Right.
We won in the pouring rain, and it was totally worth it. But
yeah.
that is probably the #1 stadium on my list to travel to next year, assuming that we don't have an Open Cup or a playoff, I guess, final there.
Mhm.
That'll be top for me to go visit. So, but you're right. It really is the best kept secret. I don't know about other teams. I'm not sure how they're doing it, but most of Starfire is kind of split into like big general admission. So there's like grandstand, covered grandstand,
Mhm.
um, and then the beer garden and the covered grandstand, the best seat in the house, right up on the action, covered in case it rains, is $17 including fees. $17. Like
Mhm.
I'm gonna go see an incredible, like you said, spectacle, super up close professional and amateur soccer for us.
Yeah.
Um, and it's gonna be $17, and I'm gonna have the time of my life. I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, and it's I mean, these games mean the world to the players, especially the lower league players. You know, playing against the MLS teams, the amateur teams playing against the USL and NASL teams, and eventually against the MLS teams. I mean, you're going to see the best game out of probably 9 of those 11 PSA Elite players, and you're just going to see them pour it out. And
Yeah,
the rest of the season is, I mean, and honestly, in a lot of these lower league places, you know, it doesn't they don't really give a shit how they do in the regular season. You know, going out to see a game is just whatever. But beating the MLS team or having a good showing against the MLS team is worth everything. It's worth, beating LA Galaxy was worth more